Okay, let's get this meeting up. Good evening, everybody. How you all doing?
Good.
Welcome to the May game dev community. My name's Dave, and I'm not an alcoholic yet. And I'm just going to be covering basically what we're going to be doing for the session. If people want to swap the agenda around, it's okay. This thing's not written in stone. But currently what we're going to be doing is Brad's going to come talk about games as a medium for software education. Then we've got Michael talking about Spritesheets for games. We've got a couple demos. Alec, who's usually standing in front of you showing stuff, he's going to show us Fields of Blood. And then we've got, if anybody's got any other games they want to show, they're welcome to come up and show it. And we have a monthly game jam challenge for Dubstep. Has anybody actually participated in that?
Oh, God.
Kick-ass. Kick-ass. So you guys have got stuff to show. Awesome. Okay, so then we do have audio. We will definitely be plugging in and trying to make those people suffer. Okay. So the first one will be Michael. Okay, so Michael will come and talk about creating Spritesheets for games. And that's the last you'll hear from me. Awesome.
Hopefully not for you.
No, not forever.
Okay.
I actually have to go and stuff things out.
What exam do you have to study? It's got a bit of food. Where are you staying?
I don't know if I'm staying full time. What's wrong?
You usually want to do this. This is not before you go, let's show what you did.
Cool. What was interesting is that your favorite shortcut.
I'm a special button on the last one.
I didn't see what I used when it was quicker.
I haven't actually got Windows people.
Windows, I think, Windows 10 shows the abilities to go up and just
Windows 8.
Okay, good evening everyone. I'm not going to introduce I'll introduce myself. Michael from Retro Future, and I just want to give you a bit of an overview on how to create basic Spritesheets. First off, just to find out how many of you have actually ever used Spritesheets, or okay, like sort of 30-40% of you, assuming my estimations are correct there. But okay, for those of you who do use Spritesheets, or for any of those who use 2D graphics, you're probably going to encounter Spritesheets. Now, for those of you also who are new to doing just to give you reasons to why Spritesheets are so important. Before when I was working in broadcast graphics, all graphics were just a series of either target sequences or PNG sequences. And only when I first started learning how to make games that I realized that you could actually really save yourself a lot of bother by just having like a single sheet with every bit of graphical data that your avatar or character actually needed. Now, I'm not going to be going into any details into pixel art or that sort of thing. That's a completely separate topic. I just wanted to show you the best way that once you already have a character design with several frames of animation, how you would effectively split it into a large sprite sheet. Because I had to go through like an enormous amount of like very, very painful trial and error trying to get stuff that was properly aligned, that could be interpreted properly by a game maker. Okay, so I'll quickly show you a few examples of existing sprite sheets, and then I'll show you inside Photoshop with an existing document I have how to basically go and how to prep it for animation and for putting it into sprite sheets. Cool. So I'll just show you over here from some of my existing games. Let's just go preview this. Okay, so basically what I have is an explosion like running a series of 1, 2, 5, 6, 7. Oh, well, it's a couple of images. And, counting.
I can't do a number actually, but
no, basically, the one thing you have to remember with sprite sheets, and although it might seem obvious, but I think I better just run through some of the obvious points for those of you who haven't actually done this before, is that when you take this single image into an application like into something like GameMaker, you're going to have to specify each sprite's got a specific grid. Is assigned to a certain grid, which GameMaker will automatically split up into separate individual images. So just make sure that you're doing stuff that can fit inside the same grid. So whatever can fit in here must be able to fit in here as well. Jump to another one. Similar thing, as you know as well, sprite sheets, as you can see, not only can they be like a series of images in one, they can also be multi-road as well. It can also you can basically your own preference what you prefer, but it is nice to have it as multi-road. Here's one of the monsters I did for my existing game. Now, one of the nice things with this, and I suppose it would also depend on your development environment, but as you can see here, from this monster opening its mouth in the series of images, it doesn't have anything of its closing its mouth again. Now, all I've really done there, I've just got to flip the animation backwards inside GameMaker by just duplicating images, but without having to actually store any further graphical data of what I don't actually need. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to take what this final sprite sheet here from one of my previous games, and I'll show you basically how to go and position and arrange this. First, how to preview the animation inside Photoshop, and how to make a final sprite sheet. So let's quickly run Photoshop. How many of you, when you're doing 2D graphic while this is loading out, I find it, I'm assuming most of you utilize Photoshop when you're developing graphics. Any others? What other graphics programs are you using? Just to get a sense.
GIMP's pretty good as well.
Okay, you guys use GIMP. All right. Anyone use like Illustrator or any vector-based stuff? Okay, cool. So basically, what I have here. Just quickly scale in. Let's just hide that. Switch on the layers. Basically, as you guys can see, I've already gone and drawn the character and all its various animation states in these separate layers. Now, I want to just show you one of the features that Photoshop has for previewing animation without you having to go and import it into something like After Effects or. So basically, just that you don't have to go and put it into any other program. Firstly, we go and switch on in Windows, we switch on animation, and I switch it to on the bottom right into frame mode. Now, you can see at the bottom here where it says 10 seconds. You want to switch that to no delay and set it to loop forever. Now, all you're really going to do here is you're going to, the same way you create new layers inside Photoshop, you duplicate, and you have now you have two separate frames, but they're obviously the same thing. So all you would do is switch on the adjacent layer. Now, as you can see, you jump between the two, and you already got your animation started. So I'll just make a series of them for each of the frames. As I make a new frame, I just switch on the corresponding layer. Now, to make life easier for yourself, just number your layers accordingly. Those of you might want to start on zeros, on double zero as opposed to 0, 1, but Photoshop starts from frame 1 as opposed to using numerical sequences in coding. Just stick to starting on 1 and a whole lot less confusing. So let's switch all these on. through. Okay, now it's going quite faster there. We just quickly set it to 0.1 seconds for them. And there's also 2 frames over here that aren't actually really part of a run cycle. So what we're going to do, we're just going to delete the 2 that we don't actually need, which will be this one, the jumping frame, and the standing still frame. Just going to preview it again. And we've got like a simple few, just a couple of frames, but you've got a working run cycle. But now you obviously can't go import a PSD file inside something like GameMaker. I'm familiar with other development environments, but I'd be very, very surprised if any of them supported a multi-layer Photoshop document for a sprite sheet. So I'll just first so now I'll quickly go and show you how to adjust the size of your document and how to accurately spread your images across the whole sprite sheet. So first thing I do, I'm going to place all of these into a folder. So if for those who are unfamiliar with Photoshop, right next to the Create a New Layer icon, there's a Create New Group folder, which I've now created. Highlight all of them and pop them into a singular group. Okay, now I want to, now apart from all of these images, I want to have a bit of a reference frame for when I go space them out, so that I can make sure that while my animation's running, I'm not getting an image that's like jumping slightly to the side or up or down. So just creating this, open this up again. Go and create a new layer. Let's call it just layer 0. Pop it inside here, and let's just fill it with just this. Okay. Now you've got a total of, as you can see, we've got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 images. So next we're going to go to, we're going to increase our canvas size, not the image of which we're going to create like a reverse cropping of the canvas, set to pixels. Now what I like to do is, as well, I like to give my documents like very round numbers, just that it's just easier just to see how what the value of the final document size should be. So if I've got 7, I can basically have a series of 4 across and 3 underneath, or I can just have all seven in a row. I'm going to create 2 rows at the moment. So if I go and increase my document by, let's say there's another 420, so it'll be 240, and double this 80, and crop it from the top left. Scale out. Okay, that should work. Okay. Now, if I start here, I'll basically take my select arrow on, and as I start with the first, with the first image, I open up the layer. I pull out. Actually, wait, let's do it this way around. We duplicate and drag the entire thing across until we filled up. Oops, looks like we made a boo-boo in calculations. That doesn't really matter. I'll sort that out. It's just to illustrate. Ah, there we go. That's fine. There we go. Okay, that's perfect. And just duplicate them all again to the bottom. There's a couple of shortcuts on how to do this. I'll show you guys later if anyone wants to stick around and see it. Okay, so now I just number them accordingly. Firstly, frame number. Firstly, I'm going to take out the first frame, and I'm just going to delete everything else that's not needed. So I'll pull my first frame out of the group, then delete. And so I'll go and see this. Everything. Okay, so now you've got a position for a sprite. Now you want to save it into an appropriate format. So just save this, and we just save this as a player example. One format I always insist on, that I always recommend using is PNG. people don't ever use JPEG. JPEG files are for losers. They don't support alpha channels, and they're significantly larger than PNGs in file size, and PNGs can actually give you like nice lossless image quality.
And it must be 24-bit PNG.
Although I haven't really seen that option in Photoshop. You're saying to support the alpha channel.
Yeah, to support alpha blending, you need 24-bit PNG.
I'm not sure what other
So
graphics software
32.
options will give you, but usually my default options are fine.
8-bit is only one blend.
Yeah, it has to be 32.
I was thinking, I think when we used to work with Target files, I think
Target
32-bit was
32,
required. Sorry?
Target's 32, yeah.
Oh yeah.
With the alpha.
But the thing is, but you should be fine. If you're using Photoshop, the default options available should be fine. As Dave said, setting it to 24 bits is going to really fine if you're going to want alpha channels, and especially with these kind of graphics, alpha channels are absolutely essential. Okay, now I'm going to open up. I'm just going to show you how one would import this, and after this we should have a working sprite inside there. Okay, so let's stop that quickly. Remember, for any of you who want to, you might have forgotten some of the steps. I'll stick around a bit later if any of you do have any issues, so you can talk to me after that. Okay, now I've already gone and imported this, but I'll just quickly show you again how I would actually do so. Inside Game, obviously this is not specific to GameMaker, but it should give you a rough idea on how it works. I'm going to create a new sprite. Sprite. And we're going to import it. Create from strip. So we'll take this. Okay, now we just have to define how many images we've got in here. We've got a total of 7 images. We've got a series of 1, 2, 4 images per row. And they have a width of 60 pixels by 40 pixels. Now if we shoot the preview, yes, we should be able to, yes, we're working. Let's just center it. Okay, now I've already going to create an object. You just go and assign the player sprite to the object, and I've placed it inside the room. Now the player object, I've just gone and given it. Now this is the thing, also to keep note of, depending on the frame rate at which you're running your game, don't necessarily run your animation on a 1-to-1 ratio. But this, of course, you can modify. As you can see inside my create function inside GameMaker, I've set my image speed to be 0.15. If I do it to image speed is 1, it'll be a 1-to-1 ratio of my 60 frame a second game, which would obviously be 60 frames. So I've just taken it down significantly to give it a reasonable speed. Also to scale its X and Y a bit, just so that we can see it a bit more clearly. So I'll just quickly run it. Okay, now you see we've got all these extra frames that we don't want inside there, so we just pop it out, and we have the player sprite. The sprite we don't need last, and if we try that now. Note as well, if you need the separate sprites for the player jumping or and shooting, you can just create them inside GameMaker using the exact same sprite file that you use for the running cycle. So there you go. That's a brief 101 on how to create layout sprite sheets. Yeah, so I hope that helps you. And like I said, if any of you have any questions later, please stick around and I'll help you out further with that. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Fine.
Are you ready now?
Out of interest, there are a few tools that can kind of automate a lot of the sprite creations there for you.
Oh, okay.
Yoga wrote one of them, where if you happen to have those things out as separate frames, it'll do all the timing for you, so you're going to have to go ahead and measure things out.
Okay, so my whole talk was basically redundant. That sounds great because it's actually a bit of a pain in the arse.
There's another guy who, so like their game company was taking Flash games and they wanted to port them to Unity, but Flash being vector and Unity being like sprite based, he needed to write a tool that would do that conversion for him. So he's got one for Flash now, and then there's another one that's a script within Photoshop. So if you laid out those animation frames, it'll take those animation frames and turn it into sprites.
Wow, okay, that's handy. I'm just thinking about that.
And I think all of them are free.
Oh, that's awesome. No, that's great. No, well, okay, so if you use that, forget what I said. Use that.
On a side note, have any of you guys heard of a program called Spriter? S-P-R-I-T-E-R.
Yes.
Well,
So that was the one.
That's a really kick-ass looking program. It started a Kickstarter. They wanted, I think, $25,000. They ended up with something like 78 because this is such a promising program. Like, I suggest all of you go look at the Kickstarter page for Spriter. It's quite an intense animation.
Why don't you guys tell me about this before I get my talk? Shannon.
Okay, evening everybody. Just for the few faces who don't know me, my name is Bradley, and I'm studying a master's in engineering. What I'm investigating is how games can be used to teach software. So could I just have a quick show of hands who knows how to program? Okay, so everyone who didn't raise their hand, that's essentially who I'm targeting. So hopefully what I want to do today is just give a brief overview of my research and then show you a quick demo of a prototype game that I've made and get some feedback from you as to whether you think it's a good idea or whether it's shit. So to give a brief overview of my research, I'm investigating something called software visualization. So I'll get to that in a minute. And what I'm doing is I'm looking at how you can use computer games to visualize software, and then specifically how you can make an educational computer game that visualizes software in order to teach software to novice programmers. So what software visualization is it's essentially taking software data, such as the source code, and it's making it more accessible by drawing a picture. So something like, it's the old moniker of a picture says 1,000 words, while a picture can also say 100,000 lines of code. So essentially that's what software visualization is. So just by way of example, here's an application called Code City. And what it does is it visualizes software architecture as actual architecture. So all your classes in your software system are visualized as buildings. And the height and the breadth of the building is dependent on certain attributes about your class. So instead of spending hours and hours looking at 100,000 lines of code, you can just simply make a picture and you can see areas of possible poor design. So something like those two buildings there are poorly designed, or those two classes rather. So that's the idea. And then there's another application called Gorse, which essentially, as developers push onto a repository, so as the code base grows, it essentially visualizes the growth of the code as this sort of awesome looking tree. So those were just two examples of what software visualization is. So in my research, I thought, okay, well, let's make a game to visualize software and teach software. But there are already games existing. So this one by Carnegie Mellon University is a sort of sandbox virtual environment, and it's called Alice. So what players are able to do is kind of, I don't know if you can see these do in order, do together, if else. You can kind of drag together, without typing, you can kind of drag together a software system. And everything that you do in here is visualized in the world. So you can create a simple little scene or a little game and then animate it using this. So you're learning some programming concepts and you're able to visualize the software. And just because not everything has to be a digital game, there's a board game called Robo Rally by Richard Garfield, who's the guy who made Magic the Gathering. And essentially you race robots against each other, and the way you control the robots is you program them. So you get little cards and you piece together the cards to make an algorithm. So you're basically learning some basic programming concepts, but through a game. And then here's one called SimSE, which is Sim Software Engineering, which, as you can see, it simulates an office environment. So it's a role-playing game where you control the little characters. This guy saying, I'm reviewing the design document now. And so you have to manage budget and time within a software engineering lifecycle. And so you can learn various software engineering life cycles and how to manage teams. So it's about teaching project management. So this brings me on to a concept that I've come up with called Conveyor. So what it is it's a simple puzzle game, and I'll show you just now a prototype that I've done. And the game doesn't simply exist in itself. It's not simply a game. A lot of the literature that I've read about these games that teach software, they'll say it increased the students' marks by 0.1%. Next sentence they'll say, clearly it's revolutionizing the way we teach software. So in order to sort of put more of a quantitative approach on it, I'm going to have the game, and then host the game on a course management system, which is called Ludum. So what it is it's an environment that lecturers at the School of Engineering use to put, say, lecture notes or host quizzes or put online tests. So what my game will do is it'll be integrated with this Moodle environment, and it'll allow for various things. For example, I'm going to have a social forum. So you're playing a game, you're learning how to program, and you get stuck. What do you do? So I'm going to have a sort of meta game there where if you get stuck, you can go on a social forum. So it's more of a discussion and it's a collaborative learning environment. Secondly, I'm going to be collecting analytics about how the game is being played. So if people spend 2 seconds on level 1, but about an hour on level 2, clearly the learning curve is too great. So it's for continuous improvement. So I can continuously change the game. And for the purpose of my research, I'm going to have two-way feedback. So as players play the game, they come up with solutions to the problems, and these are then stored on my Moodle system. A lecturer could then look at the solutions and give feedback to the student and say, you're doing this wrong or you're doing that wrong. And just for the purpose of this research, I'm going to have the other feedback existing. That is, the students able to tell the lecturer, or in this case me, what they don't like about the game. So the graphics are really terrible, or the sound's really terrible, or I programmed this but it doesn't work. So that's the idea. So if I can show a quick demo.
HD edition.
That's 1280 by 720.
Okay, so the resolution's cutting it off, but basically the idea of the game is to get the balls to the box. So you do this by programming the nodes. So you kind of get this window that you can specify what happens in the node. And if I type something like, so output the balls to link 1, and then the balls go through, and I win the level. And then the the game starts increasing in complexity. I won't go through it all, but the levels get slightly harder, and then I introduce a new color. And then something like an if statement to say that if the balls are green, go to the green box, otherwise go to the blue box. So I could say something like, if my shape is green, the idea is that the player will be learning these constructs, if statements or else statements, and we use them to solve levels. And the game gets more complicated, more colors, and then start adding a new dimension where you not only have to sort shapes by color, but by shape itself. So you can get the circles there, get the squares there. So you start learning and. So if it is a circle and it is blue, go here, else do this. So that's just a prototype that I've made. And that's the end of my presentation. So I would really appreciate any sort of feedback or comments.
Yeah, I think I might have mentioned before to you there, but just for everyone else, I see that there's a very specific solution to each of those. Look, personally, I think it's an awesome idea. I think it would work really well. But you might, for instance, maybe consider having stuff where there's not necessarily just one solution to the problem, but you can get a scale of points for like the most efficient solution to a problem.
Yeah.
And maybe even introduce people like when how to, because there's like it's mainly various kinds of conditionals, but also maybe showing them how to incorporate creating new variables and that sort of thing. Would you consider something like that?
Definitely.
Okay.
This is just the first sort of step. But you mentioned multiple solutions, and actually one of the levels that I've made does actually have multiple solutions. So two people I tested on did it very differently.
Oh.
One was better, but obviously then I need the game to give feedback on that.
Brad, Mitchell's stamp of approval, but I think it's cool. You could like to grow on that like for iteration. Like you've got like those blocking node things. You could put a number on that, and then and then it decreases. And you need to go around a few times before it'll let it through or something.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So almost like one of the nodes
I
has to.
think what would be cool is if you sort of introduce vectors into it. So instead of being on a flat 2D plane, you put it in a 3D plane, and you can sort of rotate around. So something needs to go upwards.
So as you build vectors, it's like
yes, so they travel through trees. I guess that's what it is.
oh, so you're just saying make it 3D.
Well,
so
3D, and then something like you can open gates, and then this gate will open up somewhere else.
One of the bigger puzzles.
That's actually one of the ideas I had was having, as you say, little gates. So I could have one of those nodes being like a function, and then as you put stuff in the function, it jumps somewhere else, and you program a function, and then you see the output. So that will help for functional decomposition and things like that.
Cool. Have you thought of like stuff like switch statements and case statements, and also looking at how you do like conditional loops and the other semi-important structures?
Sure. I have thought about it. Haven't really thought of a way to implement it.
Are you just teaching expressions, or are you going to look at teaching kind of over practices, inheritance, all the stuff that developers don't do?
The idea for this particular small prototype was just conditionals. I just wanted to get something just so that I could see how it would work. But hopefully in future then I could expand it to OO practices, things like commenting or whatever. You get points every time you put a good comment.
I don't know how hard it would be, but if you can make like an editor where the students can make a level for their friends to solve, I think think that would help also.
That's a good idea.
I don't know how easy or how hard it
Kind of where I saw this one going was instead of you've got defined input and you've got desired outputs, and then in the beginning it kind of gives you the network and you just program the logical steps. But then eventually I want to have it just gives you the input and desired outputs, and you have to build the network yourself. So you place the nodes and then program them. But yeah, making an editable.
Well, it would be very simple.
I know it's early days, but if you wanted to make it like a primary student-teacher relationship, maybe you should look at something that quantifies like the success of a level even more. I mean, I think I mentioned to you before, but there's something called Code Academy that's just come on like this year, which teaches people to code through gamifying. So you get points and achievements, etc., etc.
Okay.
So like you can have like every month you can check what your actual points are, and you get achievements or something.
Yeah.
Like that. Just an extra there to achievements.
What I was going to have is, so you've got the game, and then it's tying into the Moodle system, and it can store your achievements, and then you also get achievements for say answering someone's question on the forums. So it's not just in the game, but yeah.
One thing I just want to add, just in terms of the aesthetics there. Yeah, exactly. That's fine. But the thing is, I think you can actually make something look really smart, but keeping it like really simple. I think like I speak to like a professional graphic designer and just like start like using like web type icons for your gates and very symbolic stuff. They just say it's like a nice color scheme, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy at all, and it can look fabulous. So,
yeah.
I think that's actually really important for students.
Yeah.
Is what they're looking for, what they're willing to have.
but keep like a minimal color scheme, like strong, bold graphic design kind of look to it. I think it should be.
Like volunteer.
Yeah. Instead of are you volunteering?
Should design.
I don't know why, but it reminds me of Lemmings. It just screams Lemmings. You have to make a Lemmings level out of it, yeah.
That was actually my idea for the next stage, is making it Lemmings. This one was kind of the incredible machine with programming.
Okay. You should have it as like a, how would you say it, computer chips. You have to get, so literally you zoom in, this is stage one, when you get there, then it zooms to the next part. So it's not like different levels. You literally have to get to the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not a good idea to attach any too much aesthetic to like actual programming. Like most people don't get into coding because they're scared of the culture, of, like coding and like machines and computers, etc., etc. So maybe you should try and like detach coding itself from the actual aesthetic of a computer, etc., etc. Even though it's so inherent, like they'll still might be sort of afraid to get into it if you just see like lines of code in the background, like matrix background or something like that. It'd be pretty intimidating.
So you're saying I have something different?
Something like, I don't know, like
animals or something.
Just so that they can see it's about logic, not necessarily just computer related.
So Brad, is it coding?
No.
Liquid code it's a Microsoft research project where you can actually code just by dragging and dropping loaded pictures.
Okay.
And it teaches you everything about like for loops, like if statements, else statements, those kinds of things, without actually having to code at all.
What language do you actually code in for that?
No, it's no language.
No, but
you're just kind of drawing in pictures.
But it doesn't actually, you can't actually.
It's X and A in the background. It doesn't really compile anything.
So it doesn't actually compile.
Yeah.
You just can run it.
You can build games and build like kind of agents that go around and do stuff. It's pretty cool. Cool. Yeah.
Well, apart from the object-oriented perspective, which kind of ninja from have you considered maybe letting them control the individual widgets and switches? So, for example, have them able to logically rotate the switch differently, or the incredible machines on having different things that interact differently visually as well as behave differently, have different types of switching logic and options and operations that they can do.
I hadn't thought of that.
So you control the balls, the logic, and again, from an object-oriented perspective, you write different things. They do different things and behave differently than the balls reach them, or the shapes.
Yeah. And then, that's a good idea. I hadn't thought of that.
Also,
Thanks.
Sorry, just one last thing. From the perspective of object-oriented programming, there's a tower defense game on Congregate where to create the towers, you like drag in different aspects together to combine like different classes, which then cause the towers to behave differently. So maybe looking at something like that.
Okay.
Like that kind of changing the behavior in a very, very real, like easy way to see.
Yeah.
I'll show you.
Okay, yeah.
As a non-programmer, there's this idea that maybe each time you apply the wrong code to the game, it increases the complexity of whatever you have to do until you realize that you have to get it right more often than not, and then you work with the ranking system. All of the
small trees.
I think having a pleasurable thing when you get it right.
So like you can't wait. That's a good point.
If you play match yeah, where if you can't get it, you have to go to the hints thing. You will play like a real game if you get the hint. I'm not a coder.
Okay. So next up we're going to have Alec. I can't remember what he's presenting.
You should have it like, say like,
okay.
2 minutes. You want to seen your friends somewhere before. She's gonna like song like I've seen her around a couple of times. But that was you have to go through
Okay, so I'm David Bunici. If you don't know me, I've presented Moby Rava a number of times, but now we have a different game that we have made for Mixit. And it's a storybook game. It's called Your Story, and we developed it in C# as opposed to a Moby portal. The concept is that it's a choose your own adventure. We've got authors who are contributing original content, and we take the little HTML document that they give us with their links and hyperlinks, and we convert it into like a choose your own adventure type story. So it's we put it on Mixit on Wednesday. So far it's had 20 stories purchased. So this is a demo story, you can buy it. And once you have purchased it, then you can see the stories you've chosen, and you can start reading the book. The intention was that we wanted kids on Mixit to have something to read. So then it gives a little abstract. You can start reading the story. And then it comes with the option to turn the images on and off, because these are running as inline images, because we wanted them to appear on old phones as well. If you're using a table markup, you can't get the table markup images to display on old phones which don't support gaming markup. So these are all inline, so it's a little bit of data, and then the guides, we automatically break long paragraphs into separate pages, and then you can go on to go into the house. So I think it's downloading some stuff. Okay, and then here you get to the house, and you have to make your first choice. So that you might get in through the roof or through the window, or you might set up a camp in the cellar. So then you can choose roof, window, or cellar, and then you can do the choose your own adventure. So that's our new game on Wits. Thanks.
Are you going to have option to change the font size for people who like me, you can't read small text?
Okay. Well, yeah, sure.
Is the font, isn't that set by Mixit though?
With the Mixit, you have the option to increase the font size, and it's quite simple to do that. With an inline command, you can change font. We can have a settings page, font, images, and colors. Maybe that would be cool. Yeah.
So tell me that, like the stories, for instance. Now, I mean, are these like the normal game book stories where you will die at some point, whatever, or are they just different routes to experience the same story? How do the stories?
No, it's like you can die. We've got typical to the choose your own adventure model. We've got one good outcome, 2 favorable outcomes, 1 unfavorable outcome, and 1 death. Okay. So in this storybook, you're chasing after a mouse who's trying to come in and eat stuff in your house. And in the one scene, you can decide to try and set the mouse on fire with a bottle of paraffin, which ends up very badly, and you just die.
But now you got these kind of stories custom written for you guys.
Yes, we've got this story, Mameluke the mouse, and we're coming out with Abigail the astronaut, and Derek the dwarf, and the tower, Derek the dwarf in the forest, and Derek the dwarf and the long road home. So the author who's creating this he's very enthusiastic, and he's writing up all these books so that we can put them on our Mixit.
And any times you're going to allow players to make their own stories, like if they have X number of Bula, they can write their own story, which obviously will be moderated by your company, but will allow obviously Radiant Storyline to perform.
Yeah, we're not really looking at that model yet, because it seems like Mixit has recently been flooded by a number of Mobi Portal type games, and there is already a book making app called Yoza, which is you can submit your story to Yoza, and then of course when you submit your story it goes into Creative Commons, and then you cannot get any income from it. But we're looking at a commercial model with like proper authors.
From the titles of the stories that you have planned, they seem very orientated to very young kids. Is that because of the like the target market of people that basically use Mixit sort? Or are you thinking of like having a model where you can have like violent Stephen King type like things? You can block off people that don't have a certain age, that don't meet a certain age limit, that kind of thing.
Right. So at the moment we haven't really explored age restrictions or specifically targeting young adult or teenager. What we are doing, we found that majority of Mixit users are between 18 and 24, but these stories are sort of maybe aimed at younger kids in that. It's just a choice of the author, really. So we built this portal to put his books on because he wanted to collaborate with us. So, and we thought it was a really cool idea. Maybe something will come out of it, but we're not sure yet. Still early days.
Are there any more questions?
Great.
Just need to check which version is which. So basically, I came up with the concept of Fields of Blood. Still working on the name because it kind of doesn't really fit the aesthetic of like Doodle or with like hand-drawn graphics and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's basically the name is work in progress. Last month I did a talk on procedural weapon generation, and at that point in time I had a game called I'm Alone that I made for one of the LDs, game jams, and it looked really bad. Very, very bad, like spears, and you know, I just hated how it looked. So I started doing it in terms of like hand-drawn graphics, black and white, where the blood is the only thing that's not black and white. And I added in a couple of stuff, like I added in homing weapons. I've yeah, basically that's it. And I've changed what the graphics look like. I did submit a demo to the group to play. I got some really good feedback on that, and I haven't done anything about it at this moment in time, really, because yeah, it's been a very, very busy month. I didn't make a game for Dubstep competition, so but basically working on Fields of Blood. If you look at the help, you've got the health up there, you've got the weapon crates, we've got the survival time, we've got the number of kills, we've got the instructions, and we have you and the blood and. But also, how do I get sound on this? Use a mouth. I used my friends and never bad music, so just to make it more hardcore. So basically, Raz runs you around. And the goal is to kill as many of these monsters as you can. And basically, the spawn rate increases with time. At the moment, I'm showing you a mode called Survival Mode. It's the only mode I've actually worked on. It's really easy to add extra modes. I'll tell you when I die of some different modes that I'm planning on making.
Does the point are you writing into a textual text?
It's a texture. So if you check at the bottom here, it gives you how long you survived, and that is the survival rate, which is dependent on how long you survived, and also it gives you how many kills you got, and it gives you the killing rate based on how many kills I've got. Basically, what I'm looking at doing is for procedurally generated weapons, I'm going to limit the rates of fire, because at the moment there's a maximum rate of fire that the weapons can be procedurally generated at, but with rather. But what I'm looking at doing is making it so that that's dependent on the projectile type, so you can't have homing missiles that go at 600 rounds per minute. Because yeah, that's kind of crappy. It makes the game severely imbalanced. Also, what I'm looking at doing is while you play, you'll start off with maybe 3 different types of projectiles that you can get, and depending on the number of crates you've collected, it will then increase the number of projectile types that you can get. So as you collect 10, maybe it adds an additional weapon. Also, there's quite a few different alien types that are drawn badly that I want to add in with their own different behaviors. And yeah, I'm looking at having them increasing the different number of alien types based on the number of kills that you have so far. And then I'm adding in a couple of game modes. So instead of this straight survival, the spawn rate increasing, having predefined waves that you kill wave 1, and then you can go look for some resources around the map. And also Super Crate Box, I don't know if anyone's played it, but basically the mechanic of there's levels, and to complete levels you have to collect different a certain number of crates, and then you'll go to the next level. And then finally a mode for an Android version where it's on rails, and you basically have to survive for the length of the map that you're running on, and you shoot by touching the screen where you want to shoot. And the reason I've gone for that mechanic is I've been playing quite a few of those these top-down survival shooters on my phone, and I hate the mechanic of one side is the little like movement stick, and the other is an aiming stick. It's really hard to play because there's no feedback. And yeah, and I've noticed Crimson Land, they made a J2ME version of that, where they used that predefined path that was actually kind of fun to play. So
have you thought about randomizing the AI behavior? And saying, well, pick a random sprite, pick maybe how many types of behaviors you can create.
Yeah.
And then each time the player comes in, then you can have things like those big monsters that maybe when they die, they explode, and they leave behind 3 up to 3, small aliens behind, so that randomize, continue randomize that, so every time the player comes there, he sees the same sprite, he doesn't know how it's going to react.
at the moment, there is something not quite like that. What's happening at the moment is the monsters have a random reaction time depending on the type of monster that they are. It's between the minimum and max value. So they don't directly track you. You can see that some of them you can sidestep and they'll run past and then turn. And what I did is I made it so that reaction time is random between a certain range. So you have a fast guy, but it can track you brilliantly, or he might just run past you and run back. And also their healths and stuff are also randomly generated according to that. I like the idea of having the big guys explode into 3 or
That's the main option. I mean, other options are, and the player won't necessarily be aware of this. You have things that charge, they try and keep a certain distance.
Yeah.
So they'll, when they're far away from the player, they'll run to it, but then they'll kind of hover around a certain distance. The player who's going to kind of frighten the monsters in general will want to shoot them. You'll have this guy who's going to running up, and as the player runs closer, he'll kind of try to back off, so you have an extra behavior.
Yeah. One of the behaviors that I've got for one of the monsters is basically it adjusts his speed based on the proximity he is to you. So he'll be moving relatively slowly, and when he gets within a certain range, he'll get excited and sprint at you a lot faster. So you'll see this monster, and you'll be like, oh, cool, he's chill. And then he gets within the range, and he comes at you like one of those fast things. So yeah, there is some thought into different behaviors. Another one is a blinker sort of monster that as you do a certain amount of damage, it will then teleport to a random place on the map, and then as you do more damage, it will then teleport. So it's like, so there are quite a few behaviors that I'm looking at. Also, what I'm looking at doing is adding in some power-ups, because everybody loves power-ups. So like some bullet time, maybe some make the player run really fast, maybe something that gives them exploding weapons for however long. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm looking at doing that I've been too lazy to do. One thing that was mentioned in the feedback though by Ernest was the fact that the maps are very empty, and like he wanted me to add in like walls and have like A-style pathfinding and that kind of stuff. I said no, because I like the free running sort of element of it. However, what I did add in is traps that will kill you instantly, as well as killing the monsters that collide with them. So they basically tears in the paper, because this is a paper game. And if the monsters, you can use it to like kind of herd the monsters into the traps, and these are randomly placed on the map. So I'll quickly show you where I've actually done that. It's not going to look great, but that's because I did it while Michael was talking. So you can see there's 3 traps. Dan died. So now let's look at herding some monster towards it. If I wasn't such a noob, then I would be really okay at doing it. But also your bullets also have no effect.
It's almost like a black hole.
So you see that guy died.
Is to build up your structure.
Yeah.
So maybe just draw him like as a blob, and then kind of draw random arms, and then decide kind of when the game starts up. Okay, this guy has 2 arms, and then just layer that up. Alternatively, write just texture, or just draw them on top of each other. And then you can have like random arms and things like that.
So like different mutants type.
Oh, it's just drawing a problem, then just draw a body, draw a set of eyes, draw a set of arms,
Yeah.
and then you just make them go together.
Oh, that's cool. No, that's a good idea. Thank you.
Have you thought of giving circular weapons like advantages when it comes to certain enemies, so that some weapons are more effective when you're facing a certain enemy?
That's actually, I hadn't thought of that.
And then if
Yeah.
you have like your weapon system, how does it work? We have like 3 weapon slots we can fill up and then.
No, at the moment I like the fact that it's a gamble.
Yeah, because you have to kind of gamble. Is that weapon better or is the
Yeah, was it worse? So I like the fact that you kind of have to make a decision. Like, is it worth getting it? Maybe what I might do is give the weapon crates also like bone it randomly, give them like power up things. So you might really need to get like uber health So you'll run around collecting weapons in hope that one of them has a uber health attachment attached to it. One thing that I haven't mentioned as well is I want to give the weapons kind of like a label. So you've picked up TP300, which would be a triple shot pistol that fires at 300 shots per minute. So looking at that kind of labeling them, so it's like that, and maybe even procedurally generating what the gun looks like from that.
Yeah, one thing I've seen that really a game I've been playing recently, Jeff Grint's Roadrunner on iOS. It's got a really cool like weapon stacking system where you were speaking about earlier, like let's say like something that fires like homing missiles at 600 a second or something like ridiculous that's like overpowered. Now this game like you get this like crazy overpoweredness, but as soon as it becomes overpowered, it really shortens the time which the power up lasts. So you have it for like 2-3 seconds that you can like destroy things, and then it like dies down again. So people can feel that like monstrous rush of power, but it's like they better make use of it like really quickly.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm aiming to do with the power up boxes. So at the moment there's the health crates, and then there's the weapon boxes, which you don't know which weapon you're going to get. Then I'm going to have the P boxes, which are the power ups, and that's going to be randomly assigned, and they're going to be some will be really powerful and some will be okay. Yes, Mark?
Ammo.
Sorry?
Ammo. Obviously,
Ammo.
the game has limited ammo at the moment. Have you considered it as a similar concept, having a limit to how often you can use a weapon? Because that would immediately stop the spray and pray and just hold out the button.
I like at the moment, I really like the spray and pray sort of thing, because in game it gets, I didn't survive long enough to show you how frantic it gets. But when you've got 400 of those things in that space chasing you, and 250 of them are those little guys, there's a problem. If you manage to survive that long, that is. So I like the spray and pray approach. Cool. What I also thought, well, one of my friends thought of is a Control Z sort of mechanic where you sacrifice half of your life to get back to a previous weapon. So if you've you can pick up like you've got like this really awesome like homing missile weapon, and you pick up a pistol that fires at 1 round a second.
Like you did.
Then you can push Control Z and you sacrifice half your life to get back to the.
Maybe you can combine the infinite ammo and the limited ammo by having you've got infinite weapon, and then maybe give like 3 grenades or something that you can pick up and use in a desperate situation.
Oh, that's cool. Yes,
Booby traps.
Booby traps.
Yeah.
So
That immediately puts the risk versus reward another aspect on it, because like.
Yeah, so maybe make the power-ups either power-ups or
power down.
Every now and then.
That's me instant death though. Well,
No, that's not like instant death, but it might be a booby trap that slows you down for a little while, which could be devastating in a different situation.
Although the little pistol weapon is a booby trap. I like the idea of not being able to undo, but suddenly having to run around frantically looking for something to save you from the.
Dude, I totally think you need a power up, because if it's a paper game, then you have the hand of the animator comes in and erases one of like the monsters. Like the scuba thing, just wipe him out.
to drain that
If it's
slightly
paper,
topple. Yeah. Michael.
Damn it, man, I had a really good point on that.
Guarding mechanics.
So
guarding and herding for some of the monsters, because at the moment they pretty much just run straight towards you.
Yes.
So 2 simple mechanics that could really change the way you move through that space is having them run around you. So try and hedge you in, so that the bigger monsters can get a hold of you potentially. And the second one be potentially guarding weapon crates. So that all of a sudden you want to get to the weapon crate to get a better weapon, or light drop, whatever the case may be. But
that sounds like that's a really cool behavior.
You made a decision on the canvas to border it. So there's a point at which the world ends.
Yes.
Right? Is that an intentional decision, or is that just a limitation of how you've done it?
Well, at the moment, I could have done it in a different way, but that's the way I chose to do it.
Yeah.
What I'm actually going to do is give the background or the sky map behind that as a desk. So you see it look like a sheet of paper on a desk, and you make it again.
Can I just ask you, so we're moving along, it's 22:08. So is there anything else we need to do demos?
One last question, and then we'll do the.
So since we're talking about crates and the super crate box thing, just remember the super crate box, you can see the entire play area at once. I'd suggest definitely having like sort of like an indicated compass, like showing here's to the closest box.
Or have them spawn nearby you. So constantly spawn nearby you in a very inconvenient location to hide monsters.
But as long as you would always know where they are.
Yeah, of course. Sorry.
Cool. So moving on, I think what we're going to do is, does anyone have a demo that's not got to do with the game jam or to do with the monthly challenge? Okay. Will you go after the monthly challenge? Because what I want to do is I want to get the monthly challenges out the way while we've got that. Cool. And then Mitch at the end has a quick 10-minute pitch to do. So basically, we've got our monthly challenge. The April challenge theme is dubstep, unfortunately. This month, I kind of took a veto on and decided what the theme would be for May. So that's because I felt like it. So the May challenge is reinventing genre change. And basically, what I thought would be cool is to take a AAA title, indify it with a new genre. So just a quick fact, did you know that the original Syndicate game was a real-time tactical game made in 1993 and has now been made as an FPS? And basically, what I gave some examples of Mortal Kombat, RTS, Gears of War, Tower Defense, Skyrim platformer. But this brings to light a very important thing of like, are we going to get sued? So if you're going to publish it as your own game, try avoid. So because we closed off, it's fine. But if you're going to publish it out there as your own game, rather don't. rather change the IP sufficiently so that it doesn't have such a strong correlation with the original IP. But use this to prototype a game that you think would be cool in a new genre. So, moving along. I asked Free Lives from Kental, and he submitted a dubstep game, which I will find now. It's called Bass Cannon. So this is the write-up he gave me. It's called Bass Cannon, a rhythm music single-touch prototype with dubstep. The premise was to create a game where the user could weaponize dubstep. Originally, the idea was to create geometry walls like collectible bass lines. But after implementing the rhythm game element, avatar movement turned out to be a weirdly unnecessary collectible customizable bass lines and possible partnerships with actual competent
Format.
And that's you win the game.
Possibly a partnership with an actual competent musician instead of egoring the music myself would be the things I'd look to do if I were to take this further. I'd also make the drop the bass mechanic more elegant, as currently is a bit unnecessary and tacked on. I'd love some feedback. These are in his instructions. Use the mouse to aim, click to fire when the borders of the screen flash, i.e. on the beat. To progress forward in the game, stop firing for a few beats and then fire when it flashes, drop the bass on the screen. The music and background will change when you drop the bass successfully. There are 4 screens of music please play through them all quick, read the instructions, the whole thing could be way more intuitive. It's just a prototype for now, blah, 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 blah. Get used to it. As you stop that.
You got all this time.
So, I think the guys from the game design class have something to show. Would they like to step up?
You're a content manager now.
Must I show you?
Shameless marketing neighbors.
It's installed.
What?
Switch off your monitor so it just goes to the projector.
Something hang on. Okay.
And I'll talk about it. Okay, cool. Where's it from? It's gonna be a bit light. Stop hacking me, please. Okay. Just a slight disclaimer. This is about the second game our team has made. So, yeah. Pretty much we heard the concept and we decided that we didn't really want to go for a rhythm game because it's only our second game and we only learned to program about like I don't know, 2 months ago or something like that. Michael Diaga, 1 month or something like that. Michael Diaga showed us like basics, and from there we just took it. And yeah, this is the concept we came up with. Called it Reverb, and yeah, let me show it.
You're good! Amazing! Awesome! You suck! You're good! Amazing! You suck! You're good! Amazing! Awesome!
Cool. Yeah, so that was pretty much our concept. There are a couple of things we wanted to do, but we sort of ran out of time. We wanted to make it a high score thing. So the longer you last without dying, the more points you get. We wanted to make that health meter into sort of, you collect the beats, and then for a short period of time, how much your high score goes up by increases for a short period of time. And then but we never really got around to that. So we just went with this for our first iteration. And apparently my musician Reg says that this is placeholder music, but it sounds pretty good to me. So
It's placeholder, man. It all changed for the final goal.
yeah, so we plan to sort of upgrade it a bit maybe, but we'll see where it goes. And then we also have funny emo out of the game to show you, which is at the game Jam made.
It's the Wits game Jam-Tarts. It's a game jam that we hosted at Wits that was about a 24-hour game jam.
Wits game Jam-Tarts, and we were given like 30 hours or something, pretty much. And the theme we were given was gravity, and then this other image of like two hands and the world in between them. So being depressed, sort of on the brink of age, teenagers, we thought of suicide, obviously. So, and then seeing two people, we sort of try to make it competitive, and we ended up with the concept: who could have the quickest suicide and who could do it the quickest. Eventually,
As we said that we'd only been animating and programming and stuff since like 3 days before the game jam. So it's pretty naive.
The music was written in 15 minutes.
And all the music and art and everything was done by the team at the Jam. Reg again. He's a bit of a perfectionist, so it's probably placeholder again. I don't know how his mind works. But anyway, let me show you what you can have. Just yeah, and they're both vegan, so they have vegan power and they explode for some reason. We didn't figure out the narrative for that part, so we sort of just went with it.
Seriously, both are my resume, man.
Emo guys are annoying.
Emo guys go.
I think she's dead already.
In case you're confused, the one that wins dies, so and the other one survives. And then we have a Michael Bay explosion for no reason.
Yeah, it's
of course, anything about both games.
Why is there Winnie the Pooh in this corner?
They emos, sort of know, vegan power, just sort of fell in there.
The hipster emos.
Yeah.
So actually Pooh is back in now.
The second day was a singer, we were like super primed, like a little bit hyped up with Monster. We just decided we were going to get
It looks amazing, it looks really cool, but, and I'm sure I'm not the only person who thinks, get rid of that damn voice. And even the robot vocoder voice doing it, or have like, but maybe with that sort of thing, I think like doing like nice sort of pixelated scores and things like scanning up.
Yeah, well, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to make it score based, but eventually we just sort of.
No, not necessarily score. I mean like where it says like awesome or combo or whatever the case may be.
I don't know how dynamic you can do on your music, but I mean, what about having a special item to collect that kind of increases the tempo or change, kind of changes melody up a little bit?
Yeah.
Makes things faster for a little while, for a little bit longer, but then while you're doing that, the things are worth it.
Yeah, that's exactly what we thought of. We thought of having different beats instead of the red one taking your health and the blue one giving you more health. We wanted to have different beats, do different things like it slows down, etc., etc. So yeah, we wanted to do that exact thing, and you can do all crazy kind of stuff with beats.
What's next?
Well, yeah, I don't know, probably something crazy.
Finding Emo 2, dude.
Yeah.
New Emo engine. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, we come up with crazy ideas because we university students. We want to make a spoof game of World of Goo called World of Poo, but we never. It's just.
I can see that working so well. How big can you make your tower?
That's exactly.
It was pretty crazy. It's all about that, having inertia poo. So you're falling down a pipe and you pick up other poos and do like dodge other things.
Yeah, you have to block the pipe.
The point is to block the drain. But it's really your thing. It's mass the faster you
the narrative's really important in our game. It's not.
I remember that. It was a 16-bit thing.
Yeah, I think it was like on.
Yeah, I was a green superhero, like fixing up things. Yeah. Your game can actually, you can actually make an expansion pack for that to include hipsters.
Well, what we wanted to do was, we also wanted to do quite a few things with Funny Emo. We wanted to have like a choose your emo as well. And then like, those massive Tekken screens where it's like thousands of characters and just scrolling through. And it's all that changes is like the haircut.
That's okay. Where does that cover your main image come from? I recognize it from.
No, Luke made it. All the art.
It was from a wallpaper. I don't know who the artist is, but I know for sure it is a painted image that.
Okay. Yeah, it's Luke's fault. It's not it. I mean, it's a wallpaper.
Oh, so sorry, I was like,
well, they copied us, dude.
They copied us.
Yeah, they were like, holy shit. Let's make a wallpaper from that.
Okay, cool. Anything else?
Okay. Are there any more Wits Game Jam games?
I got my Game Jam and one after that.
Cool. That's it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Flash.
No.
Can do it.
Respect.
Hi everybody, my name is Ahmed. I'm in game development with Ben and all those awesome guys over there. I love you guys, no homo. Yeah. Yeah, go Ben will be playing these games for me while I talk. Now, Gravity Lost, the name has nothing to do with the game. We made the name up as we were leaving out the room, for no particular reason. I kind of did all the coding on this. The design was handled by that man. His name is Tim. He looks like Lenny Kravitz. He's cool. Yeah. So we had the same topic of the two hands doing this and the word gravity. So from the start outset, we wanted to make it like a co-op game. We wanted to play it with two people. We had like different ideas, different prototypes, but nothing worked. And this is a mistake that actually kind of dragged on. We have like pages like this full of different ideas for levels, and not a single one of them is implemented. And this is a problem I have in this game. I actually feel this game is a failure. Although it does run, it took me forever to get to it. And I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit after Ben plays again about what I learned from this. So go ahead and play the game. Now, the game is played with two people, a red ball and a blue ball. Red ball controlled with WASD, blue ball controlled with the arrow keys. And you're both trying to work together. Yeah? You're trying to avoid these little spikes that fly up. You're trying to avoid the giant teeth that should come soon-ish, I think. They might have. Anyway, so the idea of the whole game is sort of co-op the thing. You're playing with these two guys, and everything should get faster and a bit.
Bench, try harder, man.
You can do it. Anyway, so this was the idea we had for the game. It's co-op. You're playing together. You're tied together, sort of like gravitating towards each other, and yeah. Anyway, and the whole point of the game is to try and survive as long as possible without disappearing on the screen. It's not a bug, it's a feature, okay? Yeah, trying to live as long as possible, and yeah, that was the thing with the game. Now, there isn't much to say about the game other than that it took me quite a short time to code, which kind of annoyed me. I am not an artist, I'm a programmer. I do have some art tendencies, but I did leave that behind some time ago. Anyway, so after the development of this game, I decided why not host my own game jam the next week. And I decided that the challenge for this one wasn't to make it in 48 hours, it was to make it in 2. Because this game pretty much took me an hour to put together. No, 4 hours to put together, and I have the time. That's proper math right there. And Ben will now demo the other game for you.
I stole it, man.
Yeah. And it's the Windows build. Yeah. Now, the topic or the theme I took for this game was kind of awkward, random. I took the theme of HIV and AIDS. I wanted to make a game about it. I was looking around for something to make it about, and oh dear, the thing is cut off. This thing won't run on full screen, will it? Alright. Anyhow, so I sort of got to this idea. My dad is a doctor, and he specializes in tropical medicines and research into HIV and AIDS. So I've grown up around a lot of people who actually suffer from the disease, and yeah, I have a lot of experience with them. So I thought, what would it be like? Like, what is the experience like of living with HIV and AIDS? And then you can start playing the game. So I built the game kind of like a twin stick shooter. That was originally what I wanted, and it looks a lot like Alec's game. Think about it. But yeah, so the whole point of the game is for you to survive as long as possible, trying to avoid these little red things that are flying towards you. And I tried to tell the story of having AIDS through the gameplay. So when you start and you have your antiretrovirals, oh no, it's not already. Things suddenly start to become a lot harder. Like suddenly, illnesses are harder to live with. Yeah. Try not to die too soon.
Made it easier, dude.
Anyhow, so
each one should make you weaker.
The longer you survive, the farther the camera will zoom out. The faster they move, the more of them there are. Until eventually you get to a point where you just can't live anymore. And that to me sort of symbolizes the whole experience of having AIDS. I always talked to them as they got sicker, as they got older, or as they actually lived. And they told me we never actually feel like we have gotten a death sentence. The longer we lived with this disease, the more we felt like we were alive. And the feeling of being alive in this game, I tried to make by making the game more action-packed. So as you play, the game gets more and more fun. I've actually sped this demo up. Usually, that first part of the game that works really, really slowly is even slower. And it takes longer and longer to progress through the stages. I think it's now at 30-second intervals. And the longer you play, the more you felt alive, but the more you knew that your life was about to end, the more you were fighting. And yes, that's how I feel. Like, I'm quite proud of this game. Like, I felt that I gave away the theme through the gameplay. I'm not sure if any of you guys agree, but yeah, this is the game I wanted to show you guys. Questions or comments about the game?
It's nice and symbolic. I like it.
Thank you. What's up?
Could you not like maybe extend your life? So maybe slow it down when you get bigger by taking antiretrovirals and that type of stuff. So actually slow you still keep the same space, but maybe the blocks or the objects slow down for another extra 30 seconds, but it's still the larger space.
One theme though.
Well,
Not
when I worked on theme, you lose the emotional intensity. So,
No, if you take antiretrovirals, it's like a power-up maybe, where it slows them down for 2 seconds maybe.
Well, there were power-ups originally in the game. Like, the longer you survived, every time the camera zoomed out, you actually got an extra shot. So instead of shooting one, they shot double, then triple, then quadruple, then quintuple. And you became so overpowered that you could never die. Eventually, you actually shot a spiral of bullets. All you have to do is leave your character in the center of the screen. The problem is, like, the camera kept zooming out and more enemies kept spawning until my computer crashed. So I had to take that out.
And I think again, that would just detract from the show.
I would have it, like instead of you dying immediately as they grab you, like if they attach to you, you get slower and slower, so it's actually harder to fight, you know? And eventually, like, you're just overpowered and you die.
That's actually a pretty cool idea. I think I might add it in now. Like, I left the game as is. I haven't added anything to it. I wanted to show you guys the game as it was after my 2-hour time limit was up. Yes?
I think it was really powerful, but because you were standing there telling us your story. So is there a way that, like, because if I played it and I didn't hear your story.
To narrate it.
Yeah. So is there a way
You
to
have
do that?
text in the background, it kind of fades in and fades out.
Oh, that would actually be a good idea, yeah. How would you guys implement the text? Like, I think it would be quite nice. Like, if you have it there, and suddenly your eyes are attracted to there, and while they're there, enemies will spawn from that corner of the screen. And people will start raging because they're trying to read the story, but they're getting owned at the same time.
Why don't you just have it as a sound? As your voice speaking.
Yeah, that'll work.
Well, you did say the game was supposed to start super slowly. So the first part is telling that story, that narrative, while the game is really slow, you can pick off enemies and a sequence or two.
That would be a good idea, yeah.
I played a game a while back. It was basically a game about someone's life, and you were sort of 2 orbs representing your parents, and you had to like defend them from stuff, pretty much like your game. And at the end, there was like a bibliography of your life. So it told the story. You grew up and you had a younger brother named Tom, but unfortunately you let him die in a dramatic accident. And then later on in your life, you met Sarah, who was the love of your life, and she only passed away briefly after you did due to your loss. So it was like, the game itself was pretty simple, but it had this bibliography afterwards, which really explained the story to you.
Oh, so the story came after the game. Sort of like you're playing the game and what the choices, well, I won't say choices, but the things that happen to you. So if one of your parent characters died, it would actually show up in the video.
Yeah.
That's such a genius idea. I love that.
I think also having the text though, you said, well, read the text and what's the text here. I think it reinforces the theme that you can't do everything you want to do when you that ends. And so you have to kind of make a choice. Am I going to focus on this, thing or do this other thing, do this other thing? I mean, if I'm going to read the text, I will, but so it's reiterating, read or replay with it.
Fun stuff, yeah.
Well, also, what if because the HIV virus attacks white blood cells, right? So what if you were a single white blood cell, but around you there were other white blood cells that you could save that just give you like extra points and throw away? Just give the idea that it's, and also as the thing widened, you see more and more white blood cells being attacked. So suddenly you have tiny white blood cells, so only 3 like millions or something.
Oh, these are all awesome ideas. I'm actually so keen on implementing. Yeah.
If those are like red blood cells, you could be the virus yourself and like shooting them.
No.
When I chose the color, originally they were green. Then do any of you guys watch Extra Credits? That amazing TV show on Game Dev? So yeah, I was watching that and they were talking about 2 psychologists. I can't remember their name, but they were talking about basic symbols. So like the color red signifies fire. And all of us, when we see the color red, we see danger. And that's the sort of idea I took behind making them red. It wasn't nonsense, but that is a valid point. Yes?
What if you also introduced sort of those white dots that are resembling your character, and as you're moving on the screen, you have to avoid touching those dots in case you infect them. If you do, they explode more. Kind of like the whole, infectious part of the virus.
Something like that, yeah. I think maybe I'll make this a two-part thing. So I'm going to work on this game for the next month and bring it back to you guys. And it'll be a good experiment in using feedback to improve games. Also, just another thing off topic. I'm a programmer, and by my nature, I'm a very, 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 very lazy person. So it's very useful to have extreme motivation or just to say things out. Me and the game dev guys, we've decided that we're going to work on a larger, slightly more ambitious project over these coming June, July holidays. So I'd like to announce it now, just so people will look at us like with horrible looks when we don't make the game. So yeah, just keep it in mind. Sometime in the future, we'll have this game to show you guys.
So one thing I want to add is I think you can actually also quite a lot with nice use of audio. One thing I would definitely change like your laser sound, because it'll do like choo choo choo.
Oh yeah, that was something really.
You can have something to signify. It doesn't even have to be like a really like a hard blasting kind of sound. Just something soft, and rhythmic. But as the game gets more intense, you can also have like sort of like ambient tones in the background that like they can just like get more pulsing. You can have like light effect, just like something like just glowing and pulsing, just to like also start giving you a sense of intensity.
I think for that, I'm just gonna steal Rich from these guys. He's from here. So yeah. Yes. Any more questions? Awesome stuff. That's all I have to show you guys. Cool. Okay.
One last thing, it's unless anyone has any games to show off. Do you still have a Dubstep one? Do you want to show it off? Yeah.
Should I not show it?
Yeah, go show it. Sorry.
Did Martin you did press start and then just match it right I
Story.
and before they come, we'll done then.
Need a second player to come in.
That's right. Like that's why I like
Did you use Meany or something for this music?
Should maybe do a thing of procedurally generated music for this.
So, okay, well, someone will eventually win, I guess, or not. So every time you miss a shot, you end up freezing for like half a second, so you can't shoot through it, and so it like stops you from just tapping. So where I struggled with this is it's actually really hard to be shooting on the beat. So I use this thing where I just feed in the music that you've got, and it'll automatically try and pick up whenever the bass plays, and you just have to shoot whenever the bass is playing. But the problem with Unity is that you can pick up when the bass is playing, like on that frame, but you can't see into the future. So normally thinking like on the beat, you end up pressing like slightly early or something. And if you press slightly late, it's kind of okay, but if you want to press early, then you're screwed. So I kind of need a way for me to be able to see into the future.
You can't analyze the music before you go into the level.
That's what I was thinking. Like, there's a way.
What
I thought of doing actually
Or
was
you do-
playing the music twice. Once where it was like muted and like half a second ahead.
Yeah, right. So you
I think you could actually be a lot. Oh, sorry. Okay. I actually think you could be a lot more accurate if you had a bunch of instruments loaded up and you had it as MIDI instructions. Because then you can exactly say, okay, notes sit here now. Because wave analysis is going to be different.
Well, on that whole wave analysis, when to hit on the bass, why don't you just input like how you have on the turntable, where you see each song's frequency and wavelength. You can see where the bass kicks, so you can actually see it on the top, and you'll kind of be able to click when you see the bass drops or when it kicks. You can click.
Yeah. So basically, I have to pre-analyze it and have that sort of spectrum beforehand. Yeah.
So
Which
like
I don't know how to do.
mix the songs. So how you mix the songs together. Yeah.
And let the player figure out what your FFT means. Basically, they should be able to see like where the instruments are, but like we'll take them a while to figure it out.
Yeah.
Are you saying you don't know how to do that? Just for later. I have tried that before, and I think I did find some mild success. But you just play the entire level beforehand, and then you just spawn these empty game objects that have positions. What you do is you like interpolate vectors between and then your actual hit point is like somewhere, some threshold between where you are currently in the song versus that kind of thing.
Yeah, it works. So it's like sort of a hacked way of pre-analyzing the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So the other problem I have with this game is that it's a two-player on one keyboard thing, and I started it like, well, I did the gameplay last night when no one else was around, so I couldn't touch the friggin' like balance or anything. But yeah, it was fun, and I learned how to do some stuff, so it was worth doing. And you guys all suck for not making dubstep games.
We did.
Well, those of you who did.
Let's get shot at it.
Awesome.
I was going to do a presentation now, but I see it's getting late, so I'm going to refine my concept slightly. I'm not biting from anyone. I'm just going to make it more direct, basically, and I'll just present it next month, basically, just in 10 minutes. So that's cool. Shut up. Excellent.
7 minutes.
We got lots of time. Okay, no, well, basically what okay, I'll just stand up, but I'm not going to go there and do that actual whole thing, because basically I was looking to put together a team of sort of people who want to actually make a sort of semi-proper game. So I was looking to put together like 4 people. I'm a programmer, so we need 3 more, so another programmer, an artist, and a game designer. And my goal was to basically make a mobile game targeted at Android or Windows Phone. XNA is fairly easy to develop for, so that is why it's an option, but I think more people have Android phones these days, so for prototyping purposes and stuff, that would be better. But yeah, I do have some concepts in mind, but the goal was to get a team together, whoever's interested basically, and think tank an idea for like sort of, I like to think of like the next big game sort of. So if you've got enough people, and it seems like there's a lot of people here who've got great ideas, to get everyone together in like an unofficial but official team. So not as a game company, but just a sort of
collaboration.
Yeah, a collaboration, but an official collaboration, meeting sort of monthly with the project sort of goal in mind, with deadlines and an actual software engineering strategy to actually do something properly, and not just have this sort of project kind of going along and then will eventually fall apart because there's no structure to it. So that was the idea, but I think it might be better if I put my personal idea sort of into the presentation and then show everyone. But I didn't want to bias the creativity. But why not? I think there's enough creativity here, so that's why I'll just do it next month with an actual, and then I'll show my plan and everything again. But I don't know if anyone has thoughts on sort of a proper collaboration like that, if you think it's worthwhile, or would anyone be interested? Preliminary sort of, see a couple of thoughts.
If I could just say, I think the best way to get a team together is to show them something that they think is like, oh my gosh, that's awesome, I want to work on it. So yeah, so like having your idea or whatever, that's great. If you could have a prototype that people can play and be like, oh my god, this is fun to
you see,
find other people to work with.
That does make sense, but that is what everyone always does, and I've been to a few of these meetings and I see a lot of people with prototypes, but everyone, like most programmers, we kind of sit at home and you sit prototyping games and that, and we've all written thousands and thousands of lines of prototype games and things like that. But the reason why I wanted to try and get it started as a collaboration originally is because then you are almost guaranteed to have 4 or 5 people who like that game from the start. The chances of having a game that I like, that 3 other people also like, I think are fairly slim. Like, a lot of people like a game, but they're not willing to actually get involved properly, which is why I wanted to start the idea from the start of the team, if that makes sense. Yeah, so I'll see you all next month. Cool.
To be continued, man.
Can I use your laptop?
Yeah, go for it. You have something to show?
Yeah. Images, yeah. What is the resolution of this? Plug it in.
I did shut down, so it'll be a bit for a while.
Enjoy it.
Sorry, I have scanned
I trust you.
That's the hardest part. I'm going to have
These games are students always on.
Had a face of imitation.
Okay, so I already started working with UDK in September, so I just make landscapes, environments and stuff, so this basically, just thought I'd show you some pictures anyway, if you can see that.
Someone maybe hit the mouse. What are those?
Some landscapes that I make. So, actually having problems rendering this one at the moment. It's giving lighting errors. Very. These are I actually want to make a game based on this picture that's messing around in Photoshop. So this would be you, and this would be the enemy, the PC. So this is you, and you got this line that starts coming across, but it's these bubbles that push the line across. And somehow you have to rip out your bubbles and kind of interact with them to kind of get it to not squash you. Anyway, I thought it was a cool idea, but I have no programming skills. So. There you go, some pictures I made. There we go. I think that was it. Thank you.
Is that it, guys? Does anyone have anything else to show on my computer before I shut down? Or on their own computer? Or anything? Meeting is adjourned. Class dismissed.